Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching GEEKCASTER. This is Michael, and we have Drew. And you're watching GEEKCASTER, everything sci-fi, fantasy, and pop culture commentary. AKA 7. If you get confused. What's going on there, Drew?
Either concussed or confused, whichever comes first.
Either or.
I'm good, still in it, and it's just kind of it's been I don't know, not a lethargic, but it's just been kind of like a slow week.
Okay.
There's stuff that's happened. It's been like it was a busy week, but at the same time, it was like a kind of a slow timbre to it, like a slog.
Right.
But it was all right though. I can't complain overall.
It was all right overall.
Yeah, all right overall. We got some things to talk about. I know that there's always things going on, but when it comes to like pop culture and like video games and all that stuff that we usually cover, there's like such a huge glut of it all the time now that I think we kind of get what's called what is it like? When you're spelling something too much, it's called olfactory, just kind of like fatigue. I think we got kind of like culture fatigue right now. But it's the same. Yeah. Sorry.
I like when you say fatigue because are we getting Marvel fatigue?
We've been in Marvel fatigue.
Okay.
We've been in I'd argue like for at least a few years now, it's been Marvel fatigue. And then when it wasn't fatigue, it was the argument of, is it a dip in quality or is it like just kind of us getting bored? And I'd say it's a little from column A, a little from column B.
Okay.
The quality, I would say, definitely took a dip after Endgame. It's been, at best, hit or miss with their films, with their shows. But we do have a couple things that are coming around the pike that seem kind of promising. We just went on about Final Four? No. Fantastic Four? There we go.
Fantastic Four, yep.
Not Final Fantasy. Fantastic Four. That looks interesting, if nothing else, right? There's some elements to it that I think we kind of dug. They just released Captain America, or no, my Captain America. It's Falcon.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, Falcon, and I think he's up against Red Hulk. That I still haven't seen it yet. It's on the to-do list. I'm going to check it out, just because, like we were just saying, was it so far? The reviews have been kind of meh to it sucked. I can't gauge that for myself until I see it. I'm not one of these clowns that just goes by what everybody else says. It was crap, so I'm not going to waste my time. Or it was amazing. You should go see it. I'm going to see for myself and then draw a conclusion.
And there's not to add more fuel to it, but is it racism? Is it just wasn't as good because maybe it was rushed? We don't know. So to your point, we got to see it before we talk about it.
I don't know. And I'm not in the rush. I'm not in that crowd to call everything that isn't popular racism or one of the isms. There's probably at this point, we're always going to have that section of it with us because unfortunately there's a portion of the comic, readership, I guess you'd call it, fandom, who may have those kind of.
Right.
Luckily, I don't surround myself with people that are like that. I don't kick with people that are like that. So it's not really a section of the community that I get stained by. When I see it, when I hear it, I'm like, maybe this person is, maybe that's just their take. I don't really know. But,
well, the problem with that is they were rumbling in the editing process that the movie is not going to uphold the hype. And I think that's pretty bad. It's also pretty damaging because that came from allegedly the inside.
Yeah, it was the crew. It's a different thing. It's not a matter of taking it out of the realm of, it's just racism. It's no, people on the crew and the cast were saying, if they have some misgivings about it, that there's
something.
It's probably rocky. It might just be like a production issue. Like you just said, it might be a speed issue, even though I want to say this movie was in the works for several years, right? Films aren't instantly made in most cases. They take time to produce, especially the ones that are of this caliber. They're supposed to be like, big budget blockbusters. So it could have been just a production thing as to why it was. If it's ass cheeks, all right, that's how that one went. If it's good, cool. Point.
What do you think of the casting in general for Falcon for Anthony Mack from what you've seen in the past?
Anthony Mackie, I'll say
Mhm.
this much.
Yep.
Anthony Mackie is a good actor that I think has been unfortunate to be cast in the time of like when superheroes are a thing. Anthony
Gotcha.
Mackie as an actor is dope. I like him.
Hmm.
He takes on a pretty wide variety of roles and where he's consistently likable, if not interesting,
Right.
right? And with the whole superhero hype, it's really just weird when he came in and was a support character. Falcon is
Right.
a support character. He's like a not a sidekick to Captain America, but he started off as like a sidekick character, became an ally, earned his own steez as his own character as Falcon, as far as I'm concerned.
Hmm.
He's got his own power set, he's got his own skills, he's got his own motif. Him as Captain America could work, but you got like a wide fandom that are just kind of already they got this idea of Chris Evans and Steve Rogers as that guy. I'm
Right.
not necessarily mad at it, but if you're going to do that whole passing of the mantle thing, I think more needed to happen before
And
that went.
the series, it was weird. There were things about the series that I think worked, and then there were things that weren't working. It got a little dry.
When you're saying series Falcon and Winter Soldier,
Yeah.
I mostly didn't like. I thought it was mostly kind of choppily written. I don't think it was very interesting.
Right.
Um, his come up at the end is cool. The kind of buddy cop thing that they do try to do with him and Bucky works at times, and then at other times it's just too goofy.
And you know
And
what? The
it's
fact that
real.
they knew they wanted to build to this massive film, because I think they knew they wanted to do that. And
Mhm.
here's a way to get people let's get people used to seeing a brother be Captain America.
That was the setup for it. I'm not sure if this was like by plan or design, or if
Hmm.
you kind of get the vibe that that's what they were setting up with Falcon and the Winter
Right.
Soldier, down to him getting the suit, right?
Right.
Isn't that the third
Right.
act of that?
And accepting it and being like, hey, are you going to do this?
Yeah,
And
he gets their little you need to
mhm,
do better president speech, and it's kind of them setting him up as that guy.
right.
But again, it feels for like a 6 episode, however many episodes that was, and as oddly as that was chopped up, because they were doing the thing where it's like you'd have an episode that's 20 minutes, then an
Right.
episode that's 30 minutes, then an episode that's like 38 minutes or something like that. The pacing was weird to where they filmed it like a film and then just cut
Right.
it up episodes.
Right.
You don't have enough time for him as Captain America to really percolate and like form,
Take
you
it
know?
in. Right. You get a chance to really get used to. Yeah. Yeah.
I would have been in the school of thought where if we were going to make it about Steve Rogers is gone, Grandpa Steve retired, and he passes on his shield to either Bucky or
Falcon.
Sam or Falcon. I'd be cool with that, just like kind of being its own thing for a while, where he doesn't take the mantle of Captain America. He's still Falcon, but he
Right.
swaps. They share it, you know.
Right.
Bucky's his best friend and his last living link to the world.
Mhm.
Falcon is his basically like his spiritual successor.
Right.
He's not Captain America, right? But he is kind of like that next echelon. Him and Bucky are kind of like that wave that takes over after him, that next guard.
And isn't it just politically interesting that Captain America comes out at a time of this new presidency? Of all the
I'm
times
not
that it could
sure.
come out.
Yeah, that was. I'd say with that, I don't know this. This is me completely spitballing and theorizing. Put on your
Right.
tinfoil hats, everybody.
Right.
But like, a part of me kind of thinks that when it came to these movie and show productions, some folks were doing some guesswork.
Right.
They do what people do when we're like right after election or on the heels of an election, where we play with the idea of who won versus who didn't win.
Right.
And not to make this political, but it's the idea that it's Harrison Ford is the president in this one, right?
Right.
He's taken over, but he's also the Red Hulk,
Mm.
right? He's also the villain. So it's like, oh my God, we got this villain into the White House. Well, I don't know the circumstance of how he becomes Red Hulk.
Right. We didn't see it yet, folks. So we're
We
just
didn't see it yet. Yeah. But it's like, okay, maybe I don't think that that was by design, but it could have. With what's the new movie that Viola Davis is going to be in, where she's the president?
oh, see something. Like,
G20. I thought it was like Grandma 2.0 or something like
and this
Grandma
is a
20.
Tyler Perry thing, right?
Is it?
I
It
think
could
so.
be, but it's where she's the president. It's like an action thing where she's like on some Metal Gear type of crap. I'm like, all right,
Oh no.
this. Yeah, again, I don't know this for sure, but it kind of seems
Right.
like this people playing with the idea of what could have happened if the election had gone a different way. Maybe,
They were
but I don't know.
hoping, thinking, right,
With not wishful thinking, not necessarily fan fiction.
right,
Kind of, a little
right.
bit.
But you made a very interesting point. I mean, Anthony Mackie went to Juilliard, and not to say that end all be all if you go to school for theater, but
He's practiced. He's acclaimed.
yeah,
He's certified.
and it would be interesting if we could go back in time and place him competing for films before this era of superhero. I think you're right. He would get a lot more shine. I don't see him as a superhero, or maybe not Falcon, maybe not how it was presented, but but he's a really good actor, and I wonder if people would rally behind him more and push him more in an era of drama, in an era of like historical pieces that we had before this era.
He could do it. I think it would be a matter of a better fit too, because in my head,
Mm-hmm.
I've always thought that he'd be a great Mr. Terrific.
Mm, okay.
If you cast Anthony Mackie in like a series or like a film of Mr. Terrific and it was like a legit one of the smartest men on earth type of vibes, I think he could pull that type of
He could pull
character.
that off.
He could pull that off.
He could pull that off.
Was,
Yeah, because he
was
has a very subtle. I don't know if this is how. I don't know if this is. I've never met him in person, so I don't know if this is just how he is, and then he just kind of injects that in the characters he plays, or if he approaches every character with this kind of energy. But he has this subtle energy that, for me, I think he would make a ridiculously good villain, or you know what I mean, something
he
a
could play a
little,
villain.
a little bit more. It's about the intensity he gives off.
Mm-hmm.
Did you see the comedy he did where it was like a ghost in the attic?
No, I haven't seen that one.
Pretty good. I was surprised.
Okay, yeah, he's versatile. He's got the
Yeah.
Hollywood actor charisma.
Yeah.
Part of me almost harkens to like if you combined not like 80s, 90s Eddie Murphy when he did like Beverly Hills Cop, right?
Mm.
You wanted to do a fresh Beverly Hills Cop. He could portray, I think, like not necessarily Murphy,
Not Murphy, but he could be one of the cops.
A jovial, badass cop.
Yeah.
And then you give him like a partner or something like that. He could pull that off. He's got like a wide range of stuff. But to your point, he could also play a villain too. I could see him playing kind of like a more jovial villain as well, or a serious villain.
Right.
So
that's a good. So yeah. So in short, on this Captain America talk, it's been boo, or it was all right. So far, that's been the.
it's ranged from people that I've heard in the circles that I've kind of run in for film. It runs the gamut of it was dog water to it was I. Dog water to I think is the speaker, that realm that we're working.
Oh, shot fired, man.
Dog water to all right, but again, like you know what? It's actually a little bit better than dog water. So I don't know. We'll see.
Well, you know what? I mean, Disney, right? Disney owns Marvel. Disney has a formula. So even in their worst, films, how bad have they been? Like when you look at all the Marvel films, even the worst ones, did we really get an F there, or did we just get a D? So
there's F's in the whole spectrum, the whole pantheon of films catalog. Yeah, there's some F's in there.
Which
yeah.
one you consider the F?
Shows and films, there's some F's. In retrospect, the more I go back and look at scenes from Captain Marvel, it was garbage. Hot garbage.
Mm-hmm.
The She-Hulk show, garbage. I don't care what anybody says. That was hot garbage. I gritted my teeth and got, I think, about 2-3 episodes of it. I wanted to get up to the Daredevil episode. I don't know if I made it.
I made
I
it,
don't know
but
if it was that stupid. I don't know if I made it to the Daredevil episode because it was that dumb. And like it just there's
yeah,
F's. They got F's.
the balance between, because her character in the comic book is very much like a Deadpool, and I think trying to keep the action, keep the energy up, do the whole breaking the fourth wall, keeping it light, but at the same time wanting it to be gritty. They failed at gritty 100%.
Where did they
It
try to be gritty at in that 7?
at least
I
that
didn't watch, again. I didn't watch the whole thing. Where at
right.
what point in that show, it was anywhere near gritty?
That was the attempt. That was the attempt, but it
I
was a
didn't
big fail.
see that. Did not see that attempt. It was
Right.
dating, complaining about men,
Right.
and crapping on her cousin the Hulk because he just lost all steez and just
Right.
any type of spine as a character. It was tragic how they did his art in the films. The Hulk, he got rolled. But gritty, of all the words that come to mind thinking about the She-Hulk and that particular leg of the MCU, gritty ain't one of them. Hell nah. Hell nah. Gritty. I can't find a perfect man. Oh, gritty. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I feel that like trying to, and this is a Disney thing, and it's definitely a Marvel DC thing. When let's do every possible combination of a film and a show, so basically no one could step in that space. Let's just be real. From a trademark thing, like, oh, let's do 50 million versions of Batman, so no one could come up with anything close. Like if you come up with almost, I mean, that's why it's so hard, I think, also for the independent comic book. Not only because a lot of people doing stuff are not original, they're not creative. That's another show, another conversation. But it's so difficult to come up with something fresh and new, at least in abundance, because Marvel and DC pretty much done almost everything.
Okay, they've done a lot. They've done many things in the realm of comics and stuff like that. They've done many things.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm gonna use this to try and dovetail over to Invincible. Because as you're saying this, I'm like, Invincible started off as not necessarily an indie comic. I think they are, oh gosh, why am I not? Are they Image? I think they're Image Comics, which they came at like, they represent at one point that middle way. You don't have to be one of the big two necessarily. Come in, make your own thing. And Robert Kirkman's whole angle with Invincible, he takes those two schools, DC and Marvel, and he blends them together to make transgressive like plot lines and tell the story of Mark and all the other goings on and stuff around him.
It's Image Comics. You're right. Image.
Okay, yeah, I thought so. Yeah, Image Comics, they kind of took that other way. You're not beholden to just DC or Marvel. You can take ideas from both and then make your own thing, which is what I think a lot of people do, myself included as a writer. So it's like take certain concepts that are familiar from both schools, but then you frame it from your own lens and your own world with your own characters and all that stuff. So Invincible's good for that. It goes against the grain, I think, when it comes to just telling conventional stories, like superhero stories.
Right.
Because not everybody's going to be a consistent good guy throughout. Not everyone's going to be a bad guy throughout.
They play with that really well. Again, there's always room because creativity is infinite. So there's always room. But in the abundance, like when we go to comic book conventions, 90% of the independent comics are just really bad ripoffs. Like really, really. Let's just be.
I'm not going to put a percentage on it because again, that's a lot of heat to put out there. Be careful.
That's a lot of heat.
Oh yeah, don't come for us, people. But
I like how you didn't say no. I'm wrong, but
no. It's the idea that it's everyone. We're inspired by something. Right. All of us, we're looking at Spider-Man and Batman and Superman.
That's what we grew up with.
We grew up with them. They're going to influence us, right? It could be some fringe independent thing that influenced you, and you're going to put that in your character. Right. It's
I agree.
But there's a point where it's like, okay, some of y'all are just kind of taking too many cues. Right. When you see too many familiar aspects of this in the same character or the same plot, you're like, all right, this is a little bit samey.
But this but this is part of the business plan between. We look at them as two enemies, but they work together often. The whole DC Marvel, at least for years, and I think that's what they were trying to do because of the hype of the success of all these superhero films. Like it's just natural that someone like us would come up with a comedy She-Hulk type of thing, just a different character. So I feel like they're trying to do every little thing they possibly can to kind of corner the market. The problem is that they're coming out with stuff so fast that I think the audience, like you said, fatigue is just too much. It's too much.
It's a product, yeah. It's a product of what I would say is both their success and their failings as companies. And to explain it, they're both immensely popular. They're like the two big brands that we know.
We grew up on it. That was our breakfast, Drew, growing up.
Many of us grew up on it, but the problem is with modern comics, it's such a I don't want to say wasteland of creativity.
And I'm coming for people for 90%.
I know, right? But no, it's like kind of a wasteland. I mean, I'm not the only guy to say this. Modern comics nowadays, from like Marvel and DC, they were not very good. For the longest while, they've not been very good. Okay. And I think with DC, they have their absolute line now.
Okay.
It's different takes on it. They do this every time. Once a line is no longer like profitable or popular, they do a reboot. Same stuff, but we're going to just do it all over again with a different coat of paint. All right. Marvel does it. DC does it. They're both guilty of it, but they're also like kind of coasting off of this idea of, hey, there's a new thing with these familiar characters that y'all already liked. The audience is already baked in. So if nothing else, if we make it look cool and put a fresh coat of paint on it, y'all will come back. And to within it, like a margin, it works. It's a success.
Yeah.
You know, so it's a little bit of column A, a little column B for that one.
I can see that. I can totally. Yeah. Processing. Drew makes me process, so I like that. Says these things,
and I'm like, supposed to do, man. It shouldn't just be us sitting up here agreeing with each other every minute of every.
And if you watch a show and they're doing that, it's not real.
Usually, yeah. No, that's my 2 cents on it from what I've, as a consumer of it, as a person who moves kind of within those circles and writes within those circles. It's like, they got the juice still. We all still are interested. We like Absolute Batman, the true unit Batman.
Right.
It's kind of the same thing, and they know that.
And I love independent, creative writers, comics and novels, graphic novels. I love all that, and I love going to the conventions and like Invincible or The Boy. Right?
Yeah.
I love when you come across something and it's like a fresh take. You know, it's the same cereal we grew up on, but now they added real fruit. You know, it's the same cereal, but now they added, something else where it's like, oh, that's cool. That's fresh. That's different. You know, 'cause I do feel bad when I see independent comics and it's like, oh, this is Wonder Woman. The only difference is she's Hawaiian. Great. Okay. Oh, this is Batman, but he wears pink and he throws frisbee. The only thing different, but it's the same.
What a whack rip off. If you're gonna rip off Batman, at least be cooler than that.
Yeah.
And you got people that'll say that Batman is a rip off of the Shadow. So even still, if you want to go back in time even further than that, this has always kind of been like just part of the game, where you got dudes that took panels from the Shadow comic and then kind of spliced them into the Batman comics, because he had a gun. Early years Batman rocked a gun because the Shadow rocked a gun. So yeah, it's just part of the game.
Right. And he was a detective. They went hard on the detective rather than I fight karate.
They added the extra skill set stuff to Batman later, but it just made him his own. It made him more into his own character, I would say. That was one of the positive points of that.
Yeah, he grew. Right.
Even though the Shadow does martial arts stuff too, but it's all right.
But that was also the time period too. If people are like, oh, so this is the thing. I'm glad you brought up the Shadow. So, well, I forgot what year they did that film. Um,
The live action one,
yeah,
1990 something, that had one of the Baldwins in it.
yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
1994.
yeah. That was the one. I vaguely remember that one.
I think it's time. I think it's time for them to do that again.
Oh, well, there's been some talk, and I know that there are some production studios who want to go back and make, I guess, this older wave of superheroes. Doc Savage has been in the works for years. He's considered basically the first one of, if not the first superhero. Doc
Mm,
Savage. They wanted to
okay.
make a Doc Savage movie with The Rock. They wanted to make a Shadow reboot. They wanted to make a Conan reboot. Like all these old timey IPs,
Mm,
and it could be something from it. It could be the next fresh thing. When something is old for long enough, it becomes new again.
right.
So
What's the story behind Doc Savage?
he's kind of dope. I like him. I own some of the pulp uh, novels, like the paperbacks.
Hmm.
He, when they say that he's like the first superhero, I see where a lot of that cred comes from.
Mm,
With his skill set, he's kind of a combination of Steve. If you took the Steve Rogers, like, super soldier archetype, but then made him like, I don't know, like a live-in super nerd. His dad basically like trained him from a child to be just the ultimate unit of a dude. Be smart, be fast, be skilled, and his whole deal is like traveling the whole globe-trotting adventurer thing.
okay.
He's even got a Fortress of Solitude, which is like where he hangs out before
Okay.
Superman. So
Okay.
he's an interesting bloke. He's an interesting character.
Hmm.
And you think he's got like 5 homies that go on missions with him and stuff?
Uh, I'm looking at this now. Like,
He's an interesting character. They could do some fun stuff with him. I think if they made it like a period piece, it would be even more so, just because you'd have that kind of
well,
authentic of his time type of
I
stuff with modern day action.
I think the success of Fantastic Four,
Mm.
we're going to see a lot more period like this go, and it's easier to do it that way too, because with cell phones and it just even
Well, it depends on what avenue, because making a period piece is not easy because you have to replicate the time period.
oh
Those are
100,
expensive. Like
that's
shows like
expensive,
Peaky Blinders, those are expensive because they're of their time.
right,
You got to have all the at least authentic enough looking material and sets so it
right,
doesn't look like garbage. So
right,
those can be expensive. But if there's a way where you can, I don't want to sit up there and step on my own foot because I do stuff like this with my own original stuff. But if you want to take the time periods and mix like the kind of future, like Art Deco type of stuff with the
mhm,
Fantastic Four, for example,
right,
you can blend it to where it's a modern set, but it has the old timey sensibilities. You can kind of cheat, right?
hmm.
I want to do something similar to that. But yeah, you can make it work.
Hold that thought. We're going to keep going from there, but for anyone that's watching this on cable, you'll see the rest of the conversation next week. Thank you for watching GEEKCASTER. And for everyone else online or on geekcaster.com, click on the next video. All right. Thank you for watching.